Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Eli Bialik. I am the community advisor at Nefesh B'Nefesh. As you know, Nefesh B'Nefesh is a private organization that promotes and facilitates Aliyah. We provide Aliyah services. We work hand in hand with the Jewish Agency for Israel. And we are here to assist you both with your Aliyah planning and with your Aliyah process. And today we're going to be talking about an aspect of Aliyah planning, which is the significance of making a pilot trip and how to plan that. So I love to travel, and I hope you do too. And we're going to talk about planning your pilot trip. So what is a pilot trip? A pilot trip is an exploratory trip to Israel, an exploratory trip to Israel to help with Aliyah planning. It is a visit to Israel, but you're very focused on the concept of finding a community to live and about different aspects about life in Israel. So that's what a pilot trip is. It's not about visiting as a tourist. Why would a person make a pilot trip? Because you want to take ownership over your aliyah. Just like if you were moving from Brooklyn to Teaneck, New Jersey, you would go and you would research the community and the neighborhood, and you would see what the feel of the street is like and what different synagogue options there might be. So too, when you're moving to another country with a new culture and a different language, and it's in the Middle East, so you would like to learn as much as possible about what it is like in those communities. So when do you take a pilot trip? Well, it actually depends on what your goals and objectives are. What is your Aliyah timeline? If you're 5 years away from Aliyah, you can make a pilot trip. But what you're going to want to achieve that during that pilot trip is very different than what you want to achieve in a pilot trip that is 3 to 4 months from your Aliyah date. So how do I make a pilot trip? Well, it's a trip to Israel. You need to plan the trip. It is at your expense. You need to pay for the flight. You need to pay for the accommodations. You need to make all of the arrangements. But it should be at least 5 to 7 days. So you can, I would say 5 to 7 days at minimum, so that you can research as much as you can about the different communities. The more you stay in Israel during your pilot trip, the better, the more that you can experience. So how do you optimize your pilot trip? You want to come with as few distractions as possible. It's not a social visit. You don't want to have many visits to friends and family that will not be geared towards your goals of the pilot trip. And if at all possible, you should also come without young children, or have some place to leave the young children, so that you could really discuss and learn more about the different communities without being distracted, with very, very young children. Okay, so what are you researching when you make a pilot trip? Okay, what is the goal? And the goal is to check compatibility of different communities with your needs. So what are the different aspects of compatibility that you would want to look into? So one of them is the community. What is the community like? And we'll discuss that soon in greater length. But in addition, addition to community, you're going to want to check as far as housing. What's the cost of housing for renting, for buying? What's the availability of housing? It's important to know because Nefesh B'Nefesh recommends that for the first year or two of your aliyah that you rent, so you can become more familiar with the neighborhood, and there are significant expenses that are tied to purchasing a home. So we recommend that, in order first to get your feet wet by renting for a year or two. But if your ultimate goal is to buy a home, then you wouldn't necessarily want to start renting in a community where from the start, it's not within your budget to buy. Okay, so that just as far as understanding compatibility. Education. You're going to be looking for schools if you have children who are school age, and you want to make sure that those schools reflect your educational and religious sensibilities. Aliyah services. Does the community have services that you need, whether it is a municipal Aliyah coordinator, whether it is a local ulpan, um, enough services to help you integrate into Israeli society during that initial period as an Olet. You're going to check the compatibility of the pace of life. Are you interested in the community that the hustle and bustle of the big city? Or are you looking something which is a little bit more suburban? Or are you interested in something which is small and quiet? So that is also an important thing that you're going to be researching. General affordability. And that means not just the cost of housing, but where you're living, the global expenses. Is it affordable to you? You may find that a home in a peripheral area is much more affordable, both in rent and to purchase. But if you need to take into consideration the other expenses, such as if you're going to be driving to work every day, long distances, owning a car in Israel is very expensive. So you're going to want to check the general affordability of a community, not just the housing costs. You're going to want to check compatibility as far as employment. Um, do you need, for employment purposes, to be living near a specific employment hub? Do you work in a profession that requires you to be in the metropolitan Tel Aviv area? Do you need to be in the north or in the south? That will affect as far as the communities that you will be researching on your pilot trip. Healthcare. Do you have specific healthcare needs? Do you need to be close to a hospital? Do you need, or do you absolutely need to be communicating in English with your primary care physician about your needs? So that's also going to determine different compatibility issues, and you're going to want to research that on your pilot trip. Then there are the general amenities. Do you feel that you need a shopping center nearby, or a swimming pool, or bike trails, or anything particular? So you're going to want to make sure that the communities that you're looking at offer these items. For many people, weather is also an issue. Israel in the summer can be hot, and the coastal strip also can be relatively humid. And therefore, some people look for communities that are less humid or are less hot, that are not necessarily on the coastal strip. So these are things that you want to look into as well. Then there's the general aesthetics. You're going to want this to be your home. You're going to want to love where you live. So you're going to want to make sure that as far as the aesthetics, that you feel that your neighborhood is pretty and that you're proud to live where you are. So these are things to check as far as a compatibility during a pilot trip. And now we're going to continue and talk a little bit more about researching compatibility of the community. Okay, so first of all, as far as its type, the urban style and size, we mentioned briefly before, you're going to want to make sure that the type of community suits your lifestyle. If you are not interested in meeting very many people in the morning on the sidewalk before you've gotten to work and had your coffee, so that's something that you're going to want to take into consideration. There are some people who really want small town feel. So you're going to want to research that. How about the presence of English speakers in the community? Are you looking for a community that has many, that has some, that has relatively few English speakers? And as far as religious affiliations, Do you want a community which is primarily homogeneous regarding religious affiliation, or are you interested in diversity? Are you looking for a community that is religiously homogeneous, but within a diverse, larger community, or not necessarily so? These are things to understand as far as compatibility. I'll just give you a very quick example of two specific communities. Okay, Beit Shemesh and Modi'in are both very diverse cities. Okay, however, Modi'in, 80% of the Nefesh B'Nefesh Olim to Modi'in are on the Orthodox and modern Orthodox spectrum. Okay, but the city is secular. So you can be living in your home in one of the popular Anglo neighborhoods, okay? And you could be part of a synagogue, a member of a synagogue, but your next door neighbor may be making a barbecue on Shabbat, okay? So that is a homogeneous community, but also with a lot of diversity. On the other hand, you could be living in Beit Shemesh, okay, and Beit Shemesh has a very large diversity of religious affiliations. But there are sort of pockets of neighborhoods. And if you live in, for example, Ramat Beit Shemesh, it is primarily a religious neighborhood, and you would not be seeing cars on the street on Shabbat. Okay, so just to give you an idea as far as compatibility issues for regarding religious affiliations. Also, some people are concerned about the issue of socioeconomic level of the neighborhood, of the community. Some people are very much interested in having a very diverse socioeconomic level of the neighborhood with a greater sense of equality. And there are those who feel that they need something which is more similar to their own lifestyle. And that's something to research for your pilot trip as far as the compatibility of the community. The social structure of the community. Is it loose, connected, or very connected? Many times a small community like a moshav or a small yishuv may be connected or even very connected. People may feel that they want to know much about who you are and your lifestyle. That may be something that you feel comfortable with, and that may not. Some people prefer greater anonymity, and a city lifestyle may be better for you. Demographics. You're going to be looking at the community and looking for, if you have children of school age, you're going to look that they have friends in the community. You're going to want to find people who are similar to you as far as demographically, unless you feel that you're happy wherever you are and you connect with people of all demographics. There are some people who are like that as well. You're going to want to research in the community your sense of well-being, your sense of personal security. Does it feel safe to walk around during the day, at night? Are the people friendly to you? Do you feel comfortable there? Or is the community welcoming? So these are different aspects of community and your compatibility and the compatibility of the community with you. So, what are you looking for? Okay, what are your priorities when you are researching a community? Okay, so these are a couple of different priorities that were. This slide was made by Yisrael Cohn from the Jerusalem Municipality Aliyah Authority, and I thank him for this slide. And here you see there are different priorities, and the idea would be to look at this chart of 12 different priorities and choose two, possibly three, that are highest up on your agenda. Okay? But you also need to be realistic because if you are interested, for example, in a bustling city with nightlife, okay, then choosing a small moshav, which has a lot of nature around it, that may not mesh with what you're really looking for. And in addition, if one of your priorities is that you want a very large English speaking Oleg community, so then there are pros and cons to choosing a very large English speaking Oleg community. And some of the pros are the greater ability to communicate in English. It makes for a very soft landing when you get off the plane. And there are more or less services available in Anglo communities because there's economies of scale. You'll also have availability of what I call Anglo-style schools and institutions because of the numbers of Olim from North America who have a very strong emphasis on education and their own educational philosophies. And it will also feel more familiar and easier to navigate because you'll be able to communicate with more people in English, and there will be more institutions and more stores that feel very much close to what you're used to in North America. And it's great for the easier short-term integration in Israel. Okay, that is the advantage of the Anglo communities. Um, the downside to making Aliyah to an Anglo community is, first of all, it's usually more expensive because housing in these communities there's greater demand for it. And it may not even feel like Israel. You may be walking down the street and everybody's speaking to you in English. Yes, that actually can happen in an Anglo community. And you can take a step back and say, wow, I don't feel like I'm in Israel. I feel like I'm in Little America. And that way, that may inhibit your acquisition of Hebrew. Okay, because if it's so easy to speak English all the time wherever you go, so you may not feel the incentive to learn Hebrew. And then that also with children, that may inhibit their integration process so that they actually feel more American or Canadian than they do feel Israeli. And I'm not just talking about in the short term, I'm talking about 5 and 10 years down the road. So ultimately, making Aliyah to a very Anglo community, it makes integration into general Israeli society more challenging. What's best for you? Only you know. So, pilot trips. A successful pilot trip requires research and knowing how to plan properly to meet your needs. You're going to be gathering information about the different communities. You're going to create a timeline and list of activities for your pilot trip. And you're going to understand in advance the difference between a preliminary and focused trip. Meaning, are you coming just to see things and to have a general idea about life in Israel, life in these communities? Or are you coming on your pilot trip to solidify things like actually finding housing? You're going to want to network professionally so that when the time is right and you are making Aliyah, you can then have an easier time connecting with people while you're actively looking for employment. You're going to want to reach out to the community representatives, to the municipal Aliyah coordinators where relevant on your pilot trip. And it's important to set proper time expectations, okay, as far as the length of the trip and what can be accomplished every day. If you're going to be traveling from community to community, you're going to need to take into consideration that it will take time to travel, and you're going to need to budget time for downtime and for lunch, etc., etc. So you're going to need to set your proper time expectations for your pilot trip. So how do you begin the research of the different communities for your pilot trip? So here is a list of tools, and I think this will be very effective for your research. First of all, the Nefesh B'Nefesh website, including the Nefesh B'Nefesh community database. We have Nefesh B'Nefesh virtual programming, community webinars, and you can also research communities using a regular Google search, Google Maps, Street View, and then some websites such as madlan.co.il, yadstein.co.il. I understand that some people may have difficulty with some of these websites in Chutz La'aretz, so you may want, outside of Israel, you may want to use a VPN to access some of these sites in case you are geographically blocked. Facebook, there are a lot of different community Facebook groups, whether it's any community that has a significant number of English speakers will also have a very popular Facebook group. YouTube, you'll be able to see videos of different communities. The municipalities themselves many times have excellent websites, sometimes in Hebrew and English, sometimes just in Hebrew, where you can learn a lot about the community. And of course, there are realtors that have websites that provide information about communities, including housing costs, and these sites can be very helpful as well. So now we are looking at how do we prepare for the pilot trips 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip. Okay, so first of all, you're going to need to determine your priorities for the community. We had that slide that had the 12 different priorities. So you're going to really need to settle what are your top priorities. Also, after you've done your initial research, housing realities. Okay, you hopefully have got a general idea as far as what is the cost of housing in these communities. And then you need to ask yourself, what is a must and what is nice to have? Do I have to have 5 bedrooms, or can I deal with a situation where I have 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms? That's very important to be as realistic as possible. Networking with family and friends. 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip, that's the time to actually make sure that your family and friends know that you're coming to Israel and that you'd like just to be more in touch. And if they have any additional suggestions of who to meet with and what to see, of course, this would also be the time to engage the Aliyah resources, whether it is myself or our team at Nefesh B'Nefesh. You can reach out to communities@nbn.org.il. And as I had mentioned previously, there are the municipal Aliyah coordinators in many communities, not in all. And then Nefesh B'Nefesh has over 600 volunteer community contacts on our website. They are more than happy to share their experiences, so please reach out to them. But please do so 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip. Let them know that you're planning on coming in 2 to 3 months. And then there's the Facebook group for additional research, the NBN Communities Facebook group with over 9,000 members. And once you've done that, you can also widen the net regarding your community research. Okay, you don't have to be super focused 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip. You can be researching even up to 7 to 10 communities as potential options for your Aliyah. Again, we're just keeping our minds open and researching possibilities. It never hurts to learn about more options while you're still in the researching stage. Okay? You should know the types of frameworks you're going to need for your children if you have children who will be going into daycare or preschool or elementary school, et cetera, et cetera. So these are the things to do 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip. And here are some additional things to do 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip. Play with the numbers. Okay? Try to have an idea of what your income is going to be on Aliyah, especially if you're going to be working remotely and you're going to be bringing your job with you, or if you're not going to be working remotely and you're going to be looking for a job in Israel, to understand that it usually takes 6 to 10 months of looking for a job full time until you found your job. So it's important to know what your financial resources will be for your initial Aliyah. So for 2 to 3 months before your pilot trip, play with the numbers as far as the income versus the expenses, because then that will also help you know which communities really are viable for your research. Do you have any special needs, or medical needs, or educational needs? How will this affect your community choice? Do I need updated educational evaluations for my pilot trip to present to municipal Aliyah coordinators or an educational consultant? Logistics for the trip. Have you booked your tickets? Have you looked at housing options? Please be aware that in most communities, home hospitality is usually not the norm, and you're going to need to make your own housing arrangements, whether it's with family or with close friends or with an Airbnb or something of the sort. And I'd like to just also touch upon preparing for your pilot trip 2 to 3 months before from the aspect of employment. So first of all, you're going to want to update your resume and make sure that it reflects the type of employment that you're going to be looking for in Israel. That also means to update your LinkedIn profile so that it will be match your the goals of your resume. And you're going to want to reach out to the Nefesh B'Nefesh employment department so that they can assist you in tweaking your resume. They have suggestions for your LinkedIn profile, and they will provide you with a wealth of information, which would also include understanding potential licensing requirements that you have for your profession, identifying profession-specific employment hubs, areas in the country where you are more likely to find work in Israel, if there is an employment hub for your profession, identifying professional associations, resources, and events. It would be great if you could also manage a professional event during the time of your pilot trip. So it's important to know if anything like that is taking place. And of course, professional networking during your pilot trip. You're not looking for a job at this time, but it's important to let your network know that you're coming on a pilot trip and you'd like to connect while you are in Israel. This is very, very significant. Okay, so now we're 1 month before your pilot trip. What do I need to do to get ready for the pilot trip? So first of all, now you need to finalize the list of communities that you're going to be researching. If we widen the net a month or two before, now we want to have a much more focused list of 3 to 4 locations that you're going to be researching during your pilot trip. And you're going to want to finalize the logistics of your trip based on this concise list of the communities that you're going to be researching. Uh, I would recommend renting a car if your pilot trip is going to be a short visit, because traveling from location to location by public transportation may be exhausting and also may be very time consuming. But it's a matter of budget, and it's a matter of how long you're going to be in Israel for your visit. And I would also plan on scheduling visits and appointments, whether it's with Nefesh B'Nefesh, if you have an Aliyah advisor assigned to you, if you have determined which friends, family, or community contacts that you want to visit during the trip, if you want to connect with a realtor or a number of realtors, and municipal Aliyah coordinators in the communities if they are available. You may also want to schedule a visit to schools that you're looking to research for your children. And also to schedule meetings which are focused on employment networking. And also, 1 month before your pilot trip, you're going to want to determine what your medical or special educational needs will be for Aliyah, so that you can also schedule whatever necessary appointments during your pilot trip to deal with these issues. So during your pilot trip, well, first of all, welcome to Israel. Bruchim habayim. Please do not compromise on your goals that you've set for your pilot trip. Visit each community that you have set in your heart and had planned for meticulously. Each school, each location. Don't don't give up. Just keep on plugging away while you're here, and to make sure that you achieve your goals of the trip. Be inquisitive. Ask many questions. Don't be bashful. Okay? Especially of the Oleh population, people who have made Aliyah before you. We would love to share about our experiences. Keep an open mind. Okay? Don't say, oh, I've already found my community. I don't need to look at other communities. You're still researching during your pilot trip. So please stay flexible. And also, the flexibility is important for unexpected schedule changes, especially if all of a sudden you're contacted by a school and they say, oh, we'd love to have you come visit. That's a very significant priority if you have school-aged children. Try to schedule a Shabbat in the community that you are most interested in, because you'll have a much better feel of what it's like in that community from meeting people when they're more relaxed. Live like a local. Go to the supermarket, synagogues, a restaurant, JCC in Israel called matnas, library, gym, etc. These places are very important as far as your quality of life. And try to see it from a native's perspective. Keep a diary of your impressions. Okay, you can learn so much from looking at your notes a week, a month after your pilot trip. It will be very helpful in solidifying your thoughts about your community research. Connect and stay connected with individuals in the top 2 community options. If you are deliberating between 2 communities, it's so important. Keep those connections live. Let them know that you're still interested and you're still researching. It's an important thing to have a connectivity to a place where in another couple of months, potentially, you're going to be deciding where you want to live, and you may need some assistance with logistics or other things. Be honest with yourselves. Would another trip before your Aliyah to solidify logistics be desired? It's important to look at your trip and to see aha, now I understand what it's really going to be like before I make my Aliyah. Would it be helpful for me to choose an apartment to rent before we come to make sure that my family is happy with our decision of where to live? And perhaps most importantly, during your pilot trip, don't forget to enjoy yourselves. You're planning your future in Israel. This is incredible. There are so many things that you need to take care of, but should be done with joy and simcha because you're coming home. So don't forget to have that enjoyment of the process because you're doing something that you most probably have wanted to do for very many years. So who can I speak with about pilot trip planning during my pilot trip, after my pilot trip? So again, your Nefesh B'Nefesh Aliyah advisor, if you are within 10 months of your Aliyah date, should be somebody who is very helpful to discuss what you have learned during your pilot trip. And if you have any additional needs during your pilot trip, the municipal Aliyah coordinators are extremely helpful because they live in the communities or they work. They are connected to the communities that you are researching, and they will have very important grassroots information. And of course, the volunteer community contacts who live in these communities. So these are people who it's very important to continue your lines of communication with. And just to give you a general idea of where Nefesh B'Nefesh Olim traditionally make Aliyah to, this is the list of the top 10 most popular communities. But most, all of these on the list are cities except for Efrat, which is a town. Um, but a person does not make aliyah to a city or to a town, but rather you make aliyah to a neighborhood. So it's important not just to look at the city or the town as a whole, but you're going to want to look at specific locations. And just to give you a general idea, 50% of all Nefesh B'Nefesh Olim, of all demographics, of all religious affiliations, make aliyah to the top three: Jerusalem, Beit Shemesh, and Tel Aviv Yafo. So I hope that you enjoyed this webinar to prepare for your pilot trip. And if you have any questions, as I had mentioned previously, please reach out to us at Nefesh B'Nefesh. We'll be more than happy to assist you with your questions, your deliberations. And we would most love to see you when the time is right here with us in Israel. Thank you.